So I've noticed an interesting trend with credit cards recently where someone will tell me they've got 20 plus cards, or that they're all excited they just got approved for the premium ones like the Amex Platinum and Chase Sapphire Reserve, but almost immediately I can tell if someone really has no idea what they're doing. That's because the hard truth is that as you get deeper and deeper into the credit card game by opening more cards and more expensive cards, you don't just automatically start understanding things better, but instead, if you don't know what you're doing, you basically end up exposing yourself as a beginner who's still making the same common mistakes you were making when you started your credit card journey. However, the thing that's concerning is that most people deep in their journey who are making these mistakes actually think they're doing it right. So to me, there's sort of this massive disconnect that I can usually spot pretty quickly between people who have a bunch of fancy credit cards and people who truly understand how to use them to get the most value. So today I'm going to go over the 7 mistakes that even the most passionate credit card hobbyists are making and how to avoid them, starting with the first mistake on our list here, which is a common one, and that is being too loose on your credit card math. So if you've ever watched any of my videos before or any other content out there about credit cards, you'll typically see that when I discuss cards that have an annual fee, I also talk about the credits you get on those that can help to offset that fee. For example, if you're paying $325 every year to have the Amex Gold, but then you're also getting up to $120 of Uber credits, $120 of dining credits, $100 of Resi credits, and $84 of Dunkin' credits, that's $424 in value that you can get back to offset the annual cost you're paying for that card, bringing what we call your effective annual fee down to as low as minus $99 per year. So the credit card math says that it's basically like American Express is paying you to have the Amex Gold, but the biggest mistake that I see people making is being way too loose and way too generous on that credit card math. So are you really going to use Uber every month to get $10 back in value? Or are you making monthly trips to places like Five Guys or the Cheesecake Factory where those dining credits can be used? I think too many people overestimate just how much they'll be using the credits that come with most premium cards nowadays, so my advice is to always be as conservative as possible when valuing these credits. Unfortunately, most popular premium cards are being turned into coupon books, and those cards are going to require a lot more work than you would think to manage and keep track of all these benefits that each have a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual expiration period as well. So just understand what you're getting yourself into when you open a card that has an annual fee, because the issuers are basically planning that you won't. Now next here, for the second credit card mistake that can expose you as a beginner that goes along with mistake number 1, that would be overestimating the value of airport lounge access. So I think a really funny video that I see pop up every now and then on Instagram is when someone's out there talking about getting to the airport early before vacation, so that way they can get to the Amex Centurion Lounge thanks to the Platinum card they have, and then they can get a couple of free drinks just to really justify the insane $895 annual fee they're paying. Now people make those videos as a joke, but it does kind of point out the reality for many cardholders who get certain top tier travel credit cards to then just visit an airport lounge maybe once or twice a year. However, there's also people on the other side of that who truly do get their money's worth from airport lounge access because they're flying on a regular basis. For me personally, I'd say that during an average year, I'm maybe traveling every other month, and my home airport here in Philadelphia has several airport lounge options for me, including both an Amex lounge and a Chase Sapphire lounge. But after visiting countless lounges in airports all over the place, including a bunch of priority pass lounges that most premium cards get you into as well, I do have to say that airport lounge access is nice when you need it, but it's by no means an essential thing for the average traveler. Going to the lounge is fun, and there definitely is a dollar value for what it could be worth to you based on the money that you might be saving from meals or drinks or other stuff that you'd have to buy elsewhere in the airport. But the reality is that airport lounge experiences aren't as smooth every single time you want to visit one. That's because during peak times and peak travel days, you probably are going to run into overcrowding issues and lines that go out the door. And unfortunately, if you're traveling with a partner or family, most travel credit cards nowadays have begun to limit guest access for these lounges as well. Some cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve do still offer free guest access for up to 2 people for now, but again, with all these overcrowding issues becoming a thing over recent years, I think we're only going to see more limits on bringing guests into these lounges. We've also seen annual fees that were increased on a few cards throughout 2025, which partially serves to reduce the number of cardholders with lounge access as well. So yeah, airport lounges are pretty cool, but overhyping them and overestimating their value is going to be a beginner move unless you truly have analyzed their purpose for your own situation. Now, credit card mistake number 3 here is going to be something that most people don't even realize they're making when they sign up for a shiny new credit card with high spending multipliers, and that mistake is forgetting about opportunity costs from other cards. So back to the Amex Gold card, because this is an easy example to explain this. So the Amex Gold is best known as being a food card that earns 4x points per dollar at restaurants worldwide, as well as 4x points per dollar on groceries at US supermarkets. Now, 4x points on categories like that sounds amazing, and it could be something that you're factoring into whether this card's worth the $325 annual fee we talked about earlier. But what not enough people think about is what are the best no annual fee and low annual fee alternatives to this card that I could get instead. For me, I'd want to make sure that someone who's looking at the Amex Gold has also considered the $0 Capital One Saver card as well, because that card earns 3% cash back on grocery stores and dining too, in addition to 3% back on entertainment and popular streaming services. And of course, when you pair the Saver with another Capital One card that earns miles, like the Venture or Venture X, which you might want to consider having as well, that 3% back on the Saver can then be converted into 3x miles per dollar. There's also the $95 per year City Strata Premier card that earns 3x points at restaurants and supermarkets, on top of 3x points on air travel, hotels, and gas and EV charging stations, and not to mention plenty of other pure cashback credit cards out there on the market that can earn 4 to 5% back on dining or groceries. So 2 things to keep in mind here with opportunity cost for what you're giving up earning when you go with one card over another. Number 1, remember that you might not truly be earning 4x net points on a card like the Amex Gold, but instead you might technically be only earning 1x net points when you factor in that you could be earning 3x back on a no annual fee or low annual fee card like we just talked about. And number 2, you should also be keeping in mind whether you should be earning points or cash back. So if you're earning points but you're not really sure how to transfer them to get values of at least around 1.5 to 2 cents per point, then you might be better off just going with no annual fee cashback cards that can earn up to 5% back on your highest areas of spending without having to figure out how that whole transfer partner thing works. And that is going to lead me perfectly into mistake number 4 here that can expose you as a beginner, and that is consistently using points to book travel the wrong way. Now, this mistake is meant for people who I meet all the time who get a premium card like the Amex Platinum, Amex Gold, or one of the Chase Sapphire cards, for example. Then they earn a bunch of points from the sign-up bonus and the spending multipliers, and then they only look to redeem those points in a travel portal without fully understanding what they might be able to do with those points by transferring them instead. I get that transferring points can seem really challenging at first because there are a lot of variables that you have to learn about, like award availability, airline alliances, transfer bonuses, and stuff like that. But I promise you that once you get the hang of it, transferring points is not that hard, and it's going to be the one thing that really takes you from being a beginner to being a pro. So here's 2 quick examples of some of my favorite ways for beginners to start redeeming points like a pro that'll definitely make you want to ditch the travel portals in most situations. So number 1, booking hotel stays through Hyatt is going to be super easy and very beginner friendly because award availability is pretty consistent, and the math is also pretty simple to figure out if you're getting a good deal. All you got to do is just create a free Hyatt account and then run a search over on Hyatt's website for a place you want to travel to. So because I think most people would enjoy a nice relaxing tropical vacation, let's go ahead and check out what's available in a super underrated property at the Hyatt Regency Grand Reserve Puerto Rico that I've been to. Once you're on the properties page, which you can get to from the search results, make sure the use points button is on, and then at the top of the page you can click on the points calendar link that's going to show you which nights are available in points and for how much. I'm looking here for 4 nights for as few points as possible, which I found over in April for 20,000 points per night or 80,000 points in total. And you can actually transfer 80,000 points from certain cards from both Chase and Bilt, including one very popular credit card that I recommend to almost anyone out there that has a very good sign-up bonus that nearly covers an entire hotel stay like this. I'll leave a link down below in the description where if you leave your email address, I can go ahead and send you a link to check out that card. And as always, using those links is the best way to help support the free content here on this channel, so thank you so much to anyone who uses those. Now, if we compared this 80,000 point Hyatt stay to the cash price for the exact same 4 nights in April, we'd have to end up paying around $2,110, but instead, by transferring just 80,000 points from Chase or Bilt over to Hyatt, we're getting 2.64 cents per point in redemption value, and anything above 2 cents per point is going to be a great deal. Even travel portals that have the best points boost features would still be charging over 111,000 points for the same stay, and so that's why it's going to be so important just to take the time to understand how transferring points works. Another easy way to redeem points that I like to recommend to beginners is flying from most major US cities to either Paris or Amsterdam with Air France or KLM, who have a joint loyalty program called Flying Blue that all major points currencies transfer to. So for example here, let's say that we wanted to fly from New York to either Paris or Amsterdam, and let's say that we were okay with flying either business class or premium economy. What you want to do is create a free Flying Blue account and then log into the website for either one of those 2 airlines. So here I am on the Air France website where I'm going to enter in a search for New York to Paris in business class. But what you also want to do is leave this departure date box blank when you run the search. Doing that is going to let you see a calendar view that shows you the lowest prices available during certain months, which is going to fluctuate throughout the year as availability changes. But let's go ahead and select a date in March that's available for 60,000 miles plus $244 in taxes and fees. The cash price for this flight would otherwise be $2,258, so the cent per point value on this redemption would be $2,258 that we don't have to pay, minus the $244 in taxes and fees when booking with Flying Blue miles that we do have to pay, and then we take that and divide by the 60,000 miles that we can transfer from my bank points currency. That's going to be 3.36 cents per point, which is another good deal. But I do want to talk about cent per point value in just a minute here, because the real credit card and points pros know that cent per point value is not everything. Now, if 60,000 points redeemed for a flight that's going to be over in 7 hours anyway still feels like it's too much to you, then I highly recommend redeeming for premium economy on Air France or KLM instead. And to do this, we would just run the same search with the departure date box blank again, but this time just select premium economy. There's going to be much more availability for premium economy seats, and honestly, it's still a really great way to fly over to or back from Europe to the US, because premium economy on long-haul flights like this is basically the same thing as domestic first class. So you're getting wider seats, more space, and an experience that's going to be much better than regular economy. You can see right here that the prices at the moment are only 30,000 Flying Blue miles plus $162 in taxes and fees thanks to a promo fare. So compared to the cash price of $843 for this premium economy seat on the day we're looking at, that's going to be a redemption value of 2.27 cents per point, which is another solid deal. Also, just to show you this, the travel portal price in most issuers' portals would be over 87,000 points for this premium economy seat. So again, learning how to find award availability and how to transfer points is really going to help you stretch your points even further in many situations. Now, that is going to lead me to mistake number 5 here that I mentioned before, that's kind of directed at people who maybe do understand how to transfer points and they aim for those really high cent per point redemptions, but that mistake is going to be thinking that cent per point value is everything. So like I showed you guys with those examples, cent per point value is calculated with a very simple equation. You just take the cash price of a flight or hotel stay minus the taxes and fees on the award ticket when booking with points and miles, and then you divide that by the amount of points redeemed or transferred. We take the cash price minus the taxes and fees on the award ticket in the numerator here, because we want to be looking at the actual amount of cash that we're going to be saving, since many redemptions out there do require paying at least some cash on top of the points. But whatever cent per point number you get is really meant to serve two purposes. First, it's meant to let you compare one redemption to another on more of an apples to apples basis, because award prices and taxes and fees are going to vary a lot between different flights and hotel stays. And second, it's going to tell you whether a certain travel redemption is exceeding other baseline redemption options you might have, like cash back at 1 cent per point, Amazon purchases at maybe 0.7 cents per point, and even travel portal redemptions with different issuers, which can range from 1 to 2 cents per point depending on the cards you have. But what cent per point value is not supposed to do is it's not supposed to make you want to get the highest number possible every single time, like it's a video game or something like that. And that's honestly one of the biggest traps that I see too many people deep in the credit card game fall for. If you think about it, two things are going to make that cent per point number go higher. Either a larger numerator from cash prices that can sometimes be highly inflated, and or a lower denominator for the amount of points needed to book something. So some people will say they're getting maybe 6 or 7 cents per point on all their redemptions, but that might be because they're only using their points to book business class tickets that have really highly inflated cash prices, which are thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think you have to really be honest and ask yourself with those redemptions, would I have paid maybe $5,000 for this business class seat if I didn't have these points? For most of us, the answer to that question is going to be no. And so to me, the higher the cent per point value is because of the cash price in the numerator of that equation, the less important your final cent per point value actually was. However, if your cent per point value is increasing due to a lower denominator because maybe there's a great transfer bonus going on where instead of having to transfer 60,000 Flying Blue miles to book that Air France business class flight I talked about earlier, maybe there's a 30% transfer bonus and now you only have to transfer 47,000 points to book that. So before the 30% transfer bonus, we were transferring 60,000 points into 60,000 Flying Blue miles, which got us a redemption value of 3.36 cents per point. But after that transfer bonus, we only have to transfer 47,000 points to get the same 60,000 Flying Blue miles to book that. And because the cash price in the numerator is just staying the same, it's really the bottom number with the denominator in this equation that's changing. And so that actually is going to increase our cent per point value up to 4.29 cents per point. So it's all about context when deciding what the cent per point value is going to mean in a specific redemption scenario that you're looking at. So do not make the mistake of looking at cent per point value in a vacuum, but try to make it just one of the many factors that you're considering. Next, for mistake number 6 here, this is going to be one that kind of explains why some people have so many credit cards open without really having a clear strategy on how to maximize value from those cards. And that mistake is going to be spontaneous credit card applications. So these days, I see too many people jump at the opportunity to just apply for different credit cards on the spot, whether that's opening store credit cards at checkout just to save 10% on that purchase, or applying for any random credit card you just got an offer for. The truth is that almost any credit card out there is going to be able to offer you some sort of upfront value when you first get it. But like I talked about earlier in this video, there's always going to be a hidden opportunity cost that you have to kind of factor in as well, because by choosing to get one card over another, you're essentially giving up value in some way, and you want to try to minimize that value that you're giving up as best as you can. So for a personal example of this, a mistake that I made very early on in my credit card journey was getting both the Amex Gold and then the Amex Platinum as cards 5 and 6 in my overall setup back in late 2020 and early 2021. Now, I got solid welcome bonuses on both of those, with the gold card giving me 60,000 points and the platinum giving me 100,000 points. But the truth is, I really did not need those cards at that time, and I kind of just rushed into getting those because they seemed like great cards with good bonus offers. What I should have done instead, though, was really eased into getting those cards over the years by working my way up through other cards first, including other chase cards that I had my eyes on, as well as cards from other issuers like Discover, Citi, and Capital One that I had not even touched yet. And because hindsight is 2020, I know now that by not getting some Capital One cards first, I fell victim to their strict underwriting later on. So I've talked about it plenty of times before here on the channel, but my only 2 credit card denials ever came from me trying to get the Capital One Venture X, and the only reason they denied me was because I had too many active credit card accounts on my credit report. Even when I try to get the Saver card from them, because I'm just so much later on in my credit card journey with a lot of active cards, I really don't fit into what they're looking for in an ideal customer, so they've pre-approved me for the Saver, but with no sign-up bonus. So if I had just been maybe a bit more patient, done some more research, and then just worked my way up from Chase to Capital One, and then to other cards from Bill, Citi, and Amex, I would not have possibly missed out on a few $1,000s in value that I could have had from Capital One cards. But the same thing is true for people out there who are just signing up for all these different store credit cards or random airline credit cards that you might get offers for at the end of a flight. So I guarantee you that the flight attendants are definitely overpromising you on just how good their in-flight offers are on their co-branded credit cards. So my point here is just to have a very well thought out plan when it comes to the credit cards you're going to be applying for, and try not to make the mistake of spontaneously applying without knowing you're getting the best deal possible. And then credit card mistake number 7 here that too many people are guilty of is going to be changing your spending habits just to do something like hit a minimum spend requirement to earn a bonus. So it's very easy to justify spending more money when you know it's going towards a nice 75,000 point offer or something like that. But the whole idea behind winning the credit card game is to essentially spend no more money than you otherwise would if you were not using credit cards. What you want to do instead is try to time when you get certain credit cards with their bonuses around times when you might have a large single transaction coming up, like new tires, prepaid insurance premiums, home renovations, or something like that. And then outside of that, just try to keep spending money normally, and also keep track of where you're spending your money as well by sticking to a good budget. I talk about budgeting all the time here on this channel, and I try to change people's mind about budgeting by making it super easy with a really simple free template that I created and I use myself. So if you haven't already, then make sure to go ahead and check out exactly how I use that budgeting template with this video over here on the screen next, where you can download that as well completely for free. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.